Welcome to the Day Trading Crash Course Video 3, where we're going to be talking about the Keep It Simple KISS Trading Strategy Part 1. There's an interesting analogy a friend of mine brought up a few days ago when I was talking about trading with him. He's an airplane pilot, and as I explained my strategy in trading the markets to him, he gave me an interesting comparison to being a pilot. You see, as a pilot, you have a lot of controls in the aircraft, and a lot of these controls have different various indicators that help you basically keep your bearings in the plane. Sometimes it's foggy, cloudy outside, you can't see the ground, it's hard to really know kind of what your bearings are without these type of indicators. The interesting thing that he told me is that you've got some controls and instruments that give you indicators on your bearings, and then you have another set of controls or instruments that confirm the indicators on your first set of controls. So really you've got different systems in here keeping all the systems in check. It's very, very similar to the strategy that we're using. You see, the goal with trading is to identify the high probability trades. You're not just going to take any movement that goes your way. That's not wise. It's not going to give you the probabilities you want. That's not going to give you an edge in the market, allow you to win more than you lose. That's how people lose, because they let their emotions get them into any movement that starts to look like it will make them money. You're only going to take the highest probability trades, and that's what our system helps you identify through using a confirmation step process. We call this the 1, 2, 3 step approach. Now, step 1, we're going to identify a trend confirmation. This is like our first instrument or controls in the aircraft. This is going to give us some bearings on the market to allow us to then identify what we want to trade. Step 2 then is going to identify, once we've identified a trend confirmation, then we're going to identify the KISS entry signal, or the Keep It Simple entry signal. These two combinations of patterns or indicators put together allows us to have the highest probabilities in the trades that we take. The third step then is to execute your plan. And I say execute your plan, not execute your trade, because it's key that you know what you're going to do before you actually get in your trade. You need to know where you're going to get in at, what you're going to do if it goes for you, against you, sideways, etc. You need to know what you're risking before you enter that trade. So then it's not a matter of what am I going to do if the price gets here. It's a matter of what am I going to do when the price does this. Okay, so number 1, the first process, this is the step we're talking about. Step 1, trend confirmations. There's a saying in trading, it's a well-known saying that goes, always trade with the trend. So the very first step is you need to identify a trend, but not only identify a trend, identify the strength behind that trend, and that's what our indicators do. Okay, and it's going to be a combination of a pattern in the market movement and what our indicators are telling you about that specific pattern. The first trend confirmation we're going to show you is what we call the point series, or we abbreviate as PT. Okay, here's a chart, and right here we see a downward trend, an opportunity to play the market going short. But this is what we're looking for. In the market, we want to see a series of points that create lower highs. If it's an upward trend, we want to see a series of points that create higher lows. But in this particular example, we see 2 points here, creating a high, and then at a lower point, a lower high. Now the key then is to look at what's happening at our lower indicators in this chart when you see this pattern. This pattern happens a lot, but you want to couple it with what our lower indicators are doing to identify a strong trend confirmation. Similar pattern with a lower high below the 0 line. So now if we line up the points that we're looking at in the market with the points in our trend, in our lower indicators, we can see a similar pattern. we want to make sure that the second peak, the lower peak, is actually below the blue line, which is the 0 line in our lower indicators. And when that's there, then we have a high probability that the trend will continue in its course. So this is the very first thing that we want to identify before we ever look for a signal to go short. But what this is telling us now is that we can look for a signal to go short in this trend. Okay, so that's number one. That's the point series trend confirmation. The second one we teach is called a double top or a double bottom. We abbreviate them DT and DB. So again, here's another example in the market. What we're going to look for is a pattern in the market. This is a reversal pattern where 2 points hit the exact same price level right here. Okay, now I just want to point out to you that this area here, even though the bodies of these candles are down here, this shadow going up still hit the exact same point as this previous point. Okay, so that will qualify as a double top. Now we are going to turn our attention to what the lower indicators are doing. The lower indicators in this example are creating a strong level of divergence. What's that? Well, it's showing a negative slope when you align the 2 points going directly below. And it's creating quite a strong negative slope compared to a 0 line or a 0 slope above in the pattern in the market. That type of signal or pattern in the market is showing strength behind this double top, that this pattern may end up reversing, and there's a high probability that this trend is going to reverse. When we see that signal, we can then feel confident enough to look for an entry signal going short. Okay? So we always want to trade with the trend, and we've identified strong trends with our lower indicators. The next step is to identify an entry signal with our upper indicators, which I'll show you then on the next video, video 4 of our crash course in day trading, KISS Trading Strategy Part 2.